Hello, everyone watching and listening, and welcome to another episode of Inspired By with Stowe. And I always leave that blank space up at the top because you never know who's going to be a special guest on this show and is going to inspire you because of what they are inspired by. And today I have the one and only Dr. Earnest Pugh. How are you feeling today?
I'm good, man. How about you?
Man, I'm great. I'm happy to be talking with you. I got to get a chance to meet you and get some more insight about how you operate and why you are just so gifted in so many different facets and we're going to talk about all those. But you have the title of Gospel's leading gentleman. So how did that come out, and what responsibilities do you carry to uphold that?
Wow, now you're putting the pressure on, Stowe. Now you're putting the pressure on. Listen, anytime you say yes to the Lord and become a leader, man, you automatically have a target on your back at all times.
Yeah.
But it's kind of easy shouldering such a responsibility when you know that you have a calling on your life, you have a purpose in the earth to do something. And so when you do it, you kind of want to enter into it though with like fear and trembling. It's like I come to every situation empty. They told me this in seminary. They said when I came to the industry, I purposely came empty so that I could be filled. And people like Daryl Coley, John P. Key, Vanessa Bell Armstrong, because I was empty and I was open and receptive and just teachable, they were able to empower me with what I call the power and the equipment to do what we do.
Wow, that's huge. That's huge. Yeah. I think a lot of people, still struggle with not only understanding what they are called to do, but when they reach the operation stage of their calling and they reach that emptiness, like then they feel alone, they feel forgotten. Like, you hear people all the time say like, God, why do you here just to forget me? So like, how do you hold on to, like, how did you get through that emptiness to be filled up?
You have to rehearse past victories because you're not going to always be on a mountaintop. Sometimes you're going to be in a valley. And so what helps me go through, my mama used to say, well, the way that when you're in a valley, you can still find Jesus. Just start looking for lilies. He's the lily of the valley. So while you're in that valley, you really have to rehearse past victories. If he did it before, he'll do it again. If he did it, that's kind of like how you have to keep reminding yourself. So sometimes I'll pull out testimonies that people have sent me when I really need that encouragement or to remind myself why I'm in this in the first place. I'll pull out a testimony. I'll pull out, listen, this is going to really get you. Sometimes I pull out some of my old fashions and be like, woo, when I wore them clothes, boy, I was broken in the 10 Commandments. Right. But now I can go, look, I can go on to Walmart and get me a shirt. Now I used to have to go to the dollar store. Now I go to Walmart. Now I can go to Target. Yeah. So just rehearsing what God has done in the past as a reminder. The Bible says to us that he works in us, both the will and to do his good pleasure. And as long as we give him that space to work in us, we're going to be all right. We'll always evolve.
Man, that's huge right there. Rehearse your past victories. I like that. I like that because because we talk about winning and losing, and people say I don't lose, I just learn, and it's like no, like you really do lose. Like if you didn't lose,
you take an L.
Right. If you didn't lose, you wouldn't know what victory is. So
there you go. And then I think it's all about having the beauty and the balance. Like you're not going to always be You're not gonna, your songs are not gonna always be embraced by everybody that hears new music. Sometimes they want that old stuff. And you'll come, you sing the saying that says you can't open new doors with old keys. And
Yeah.
sometimes when you're trying new stuff, people are like, oh, and so that takes it plays on your mental. So you
Yeah.
have to just say to yourself, you know what, everybody's not gonna always love everything you do. You're not gonna be welcomed and embraced everywhere where you go. But I think it gives us a balance to
Yeah.
what we understand. There's sunshine and there's rain.
Yes.
But sometimes the sunshine and the rain is what makes the flower really grow.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
If you had just sunshine, it may be scorched or burnt. But if I mix in a little rain with the sunshine,
Ooh, yeah.
that's the beauty and the balance of walking this thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. And everything that you are saying, it seems like you have lived out through what we have seen as the public in your music career. And now you
Yes,
are
sir.
in a position where you have your own artist on your own label. So how are you taking your experiences of those valley experiences, those mountain experiences, and teaching them that same path?
Well, it's really a joy because somebody has to, we all stand on somebody's shoulders. And so
Mm.
I've known these artists that I work with, they've been on the backside of the desert for a long time, and their talent is remarkable. But all they need is that one opportunity, and God will propel them and take them where they want to go. So when I started EPM Music Group, I went into it like I'm going to find that person who's out there that really needs marketing, promotions, distribution, need really just visibility and exposure. And from there, and so we were blessed to work with the likes of a Crystal Rucker, um, uh, 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 Vincent Tharp and Kenosis,
Yeah.
Keith Williams, John Paul McGee. And those persons have gone on to do great and mighty things. And I'm just grateful that I was able to use my platform, not that they were competing with me. So I started EPM Music Group over in the E1 Entertainment System, but I stayed over on my side with P Man Music here. I wanted them to feel that it was an artist centric label to where your vision, your plan, your purpose is the priority. You're not competing with anybody but yourself. And
Wow.
so that was our motivation and that was our inspiration behind getting into the business. I could have just focused on just being an artist,
Yeah.
something that I knew how to do, but I didn't want to be selfish about it. If gospel music is going to have a legacy and it's going to live on, then when I'm dead and gone, there should be somebody who's out there doing it because I gave them an opportunity. I gave them advice or just threw a little bit of wisdom their way.
Yeah. Well, you still got
Yeah.
plenty left in the tank to give to build up that legacy.
Hey, I feel it. I
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
it.
Especially with your new single, "Thank You So Much." Can you talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah, man. Thank you so much, which is the second single off the Outpour Experience CD. I wanted to release this song because I went through COVID, really, and COVID really took a toll on my body, on my family. I checked into the hospital with an oxygen level of 82, which continued to drop. I stayed on a ventilator for 10 days. And every day the doctors came into the room, they never had anything positive to say. So one day my daughter was like, of a God that's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all we can ask or think. And they begin to pray. And when they came out of that prayer on the 10th day, my oxygen level shot up to 92. The doctors are still astonished. They
Mm.
still be calling like, is he still here? I'm like, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm not leaving the earth till I fulfill God's purpose. So
Wow.
when I came through that whole sickness, Carrie came and said, what song do you want to go to radio? I say, I want to normalize thanking God for just small things. Sometimes we get so comfortable with the blessings, and God turned that situation around. But there were people in that same hospital. The guy that was in the same room with me passed away the day that I got off the ventilator.
Oh my.
So I just said, there's three words: thank you, Lord, because it could have gone a whole nother way. He was much younger than me. He was more physically fit than me, but he didn't fight through the COVID pneumonia like I did. I had pneumonia in both lungs. And I wasn't supposed to be here. And so when it was time to put my next thing out, I wanted the world to know I'm giving God credit for sparing my life. And so that's what Thank You, Lord is all about. If it had not been for his grace,
Mhm.
I didn't get what I should have got,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I got because of grace and mercy. I just received God's favor. And so that's what Thank You so much is all about.
Wow. Wow. It's when I listen
Yeah.
to the song, I'm immediately, reminded of growing up and, parents and grandparents always being on you saying be polite, show your manners, say please, say thank you. And as believers, sometimes we forget that when we are communicating or interacting in our relationship with God, and it's like we need to be reminded. This song reminds us that we need to
Yeah.
show our manners. Like even when you was in the lunch line at school and the lunch lady poured that slop on your,
Come on.
you said
Yeah.
thank you.
You said thank you.
Right?
And the old people used to say, when you tell somebody thank you, it makes them want to do more for you when
Mm,
you show an attitude of gratitude. When you say thank you, even when you're at a restaurant and you say thank you, it goes a long way with customer service when
yeah.
they feel that you appreciate what they're doing. You
Yes.
know,
Yeah. That and so like when we transfer that to our relationship with God, I just
right.
think like it. I think it's the same type of reciprocity in that.
Same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
If he see that he's appreciated, like I talked to one of my friends the other day, and I said I think God looks for reasons to show off. you know,
Wow. I
like
like that.
yeah, like and I want to give him
He's look.
all the room to show off.
Use me. You can use me.
Right?
But it does say he seeks and searches for somebody he can show himself strong
Mm,
through. And so you can trust me. You can show yourself strong and mighty through me
yes,
because I'm
yes.
gonna give him credit.
Wow. So when it comes
Yeah.
to our relationships with God, all of us have the individual relationship and have, our relationship have been affected just through our different experiences in life. And with you, I'm curious, how did your time in the service and in the army affect your relationship with God?
Well, I've always been like a church kid, and so even leaving for the military, I remember when my bishop Gilbert R. Patterson prophesied of me. I was 18 years old, and I was leaving for the military, and he said, "Isn't it something how you're in the army of the Lord,
Mm,
but while being in the army of the Lord, you're not going to be in the United States Army?"
yeah.
And he said, "Your mission has not changed.
Wow.
Your your uniform or your exterior is going to change, but your impact that you're going to make on the world is going to be likened unto that David had as he refreshed Saul." And that's really what happened. When I went out there, I was singing at funerals and weddings, and I went out there not telling anybody what I did. And they would call on me and say, "Can you open us up with prayer? Can you open up with a song? Can you?" And so it's like, how do these people even know that that's what I grew up doing? But it was like it's an irrevocable calling that's on your life. And so even though I was in the army for those 20 years, the entire time I was there, the majority of the time on weekends I was ministering.
Really?
People could not believe that I was in the United States Army because every weekend I was out. They didn't make me stay in the field. I did deploy a couple of times, but it was almost like my mission for coming in there was to really share the gospel of Jesus, by way of song, and sometimes just offering a prayer, for somebody. So I think it enhanced my walk with the Lord. It gave me a platform outside of the four walls of the church because
Wow.
I was out there in the field a lot of times, or just out there with unchurched people who would not come into the four walls of the church. God said, "I'm gonna send you to them." So I had to use a different kind of language. I couldn't go in there, hallelujah, and speaking in tongues. Sometimes your life is a letter that they read. And when they see your example, sometimes that made them say, "Well, what's your secret?" And then you open the door and say, I'm a born again believer. I go to blah 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 church. But
Yeah.
I had to live a certain way because I felt like I was always being under a microscope. I was being watched, and as God's representative in the earth, we have to keep that in mind. Not only does God see everything, but people are watching you.
Yes. Yes.
So when you run that, when you have that road rage, and when you want to use some words, you have to be like, oh, let me find another choice of words to use here. May not go over good.
No, that's amazing. And it just goes to show that God uses us in different ways and at different times, and to reach people
Yeah,
that won't come to him in that traditional way.
there you
And
go.
the weight of that charge is that we are responsible for those souls. And
Yes, sir.
a new way that you're doing that is by now you want to be an author. Like we already
Yeah,
abiding in a place of
and
worship.
that's something.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I've been a worship leader for about 3 decades. I've been working at 20 years old, and it was always in capacity as a praise and worship leader. So during COVID, I was just getting online, and they would be like, I was giving practical instructions for people who affect the flow of worship. So a lot of young worship leaders were coming onto my page, and I started going into a Zoom. And one day my manager said, why don't you just compile all this data into a book
Mhm.
and then just teach out of the book? And I was like, well, I don't have a book. They was like, you basically do have a book. We got enough for 10 chapters. So we started compiling the information, and God just began to breathe on it. And I started doing Zoom classes during the pandemic, and I was teaching on abiding in the place of worship. And so we had about 99 to 100 people every week that would come on there, and I would just teach out of the book. And a good friend of mine said, man, some churches ain't got 100 people logging on. You got a little congregation over there. So it just launched. It took a life of its own. And even today, we do a lot of teaching, going around, and we got tours set up. Actually, you'll see on my page, we got book signing. We're doing in various places, but we're going in teaching praise teams, just how to have a closer walk with the Lord. Some people don't know how to do corporate worship, like come together with other believers. So we go in there with very practical instructions and just talk about worship, and then integrating it into the worship experience, like in the church.
Yeah.
But it starts with just your daily devotion, even
Okay.
at home.
Yeah. That was going to be my question: is how much does your personal worship transfer over to that leading that corporate worship?
Well, see, Yolanda Adams had a song years ago, and the lyric of the song says, before I tell them, Lord, please tell me.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you're having that communion with God, the Bible says, as we draw nigh unto him, he draws nigh unto us. In that secret place where God is drawing nigh unto you, he imparts so much, just so much to you about your future, what you're going through. A lot of it just, and it's not so much as a physical building, a habitation, as much as a visitation.
Right.
See, people think they got to go to a physical building, but this pandemic taught us you can't not always go into a physical building. You got to invoke God's presence in your living room, in the kitchen, when you're driving in the car. And so it teaches you to have an individual one-on-one, and then you can branch out and understand. But you just got to walk through it. You got to really get to know what God's voice is. I did a post today that says it's hard to hear God's voice when you already made up in your mind what you wanted to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
So you're training your ears to really hear the voice of God.
yeah. And that's a discipline in itself, because it's not always what we necessarily want to hear.
It ain't what you want. A lot of times he's getting you together. Like you go in
Mhm.
this presence and and I got to the place, I don't go in there and ask for anything. I go in there thanking him for all that he's already done. And while I'm there thanking it, boom, he manifests something else. Boom, he opened that door. But it's like when you really know him, God does a whole lot of things just because he loves us. We
Yeah.
don't have to ask for him. And so that's what I try to tell people. He's not a sugar daddy. You don't go into his prayer, oh, I need a car, I need a house, I need a wife, no, 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 no. You just, as you're thanking him, and when you think, you can't help but thank, and you just think of all he's already done, you'll spend all of your time thanking. But we go in there wanting things. I'm like, no, don't come in there with an agenda.
Yeah.
Just have that experience.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I'll have to take that. God is not a sugar daddy.
Mm-hmm. He ain't no sugar daddy.
Yeah, I love
You can
that.
do that yourself. I'm gonna show you that stuff you can do yourself.
Right. So before I let you go, I need you to fill in the blank of this sentence for me. So it is, I am Ernest Pugh and I'm inspired by blank.
Greatness.
Can you touch on that a little bit?
When I see greatness, I want to. But when I see greatness, like when I see excellence, it makes me want to do more. It inspires me to go deep. Like for instance, when I watch the beauty of how the Stellar Awards were done, I love lighting and cameras and all that. But they didn't just get up there and put that together any kind of way. The people had wardrobe, they had lighting, they had cameras, and music was amazing. And it just makes you say, wow, I want to adorn the gospel all the more greater. So when I see somebody who's got a suit on that really represents them as a kingdom citizen, it makes me want to go harder. Like I really want to invest more time and energy in quality clothing. I'm just inspired when I see it and it looks good. I'm like, okay, that's the standard. That the bar has been set. I got to now step up to the plate.
Yeah, that's
Is
amazing.
that good?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay.
That's awesome. Is there anything else that we did not touch on that you want everyone watching and listening to know?
No, that's it. Just keep up with me on my page, www.earnestpugh.com, all of my social media stuff. I would love for y'all to come over there and just come on the journey. I'm doing my own posting. I would love for y'all to follow and just go with me on the journey. Follow me to a city near you. I'm out every weekend. I post all those dates on my website.
There he is, Dr. Earnest.
Hey!
I appreciate you talking with me today.
Yes, sir. Bless you, man.